Has the Minister issued any directions to the ARC or to you, Professor Thomas?
Senator, the ARC was asked to introduce the national interest test to all of its programs as they open past the date of the Minister's original press release.
Okay. So that's, when you say ask, was that a direction?
No, I don't believe it was, Senator, no.
It's not? Oh, so it's voluntary, is it?
Well, no, Senator, it was the Minister made the decision and the ARC has been implementing that decision.
Okay, so it was a direction.
If you want to say so.
Is that right?
I wouldn't have considered it a direction, but because it wasn't
You're
in the
just
form
implementing what the Minister's suggestion. Is that how it works?
We are implementing the Minister's decision.
The decision.
Yes.
So I'd call that a direction then, wouldn't it? So, and you're saying it applies to all programs, so that'll apply to future fellows?
Everything in the end.
Everything,
Senator,
so
yes.
laureates,
Yes.
DECRAs,
Yes.
linkage?
Yes.
Linkage?
Yes,
Yes,
linkage
Senator.
projects.
Industrial transformation programs within the linkage program?
Yes.
There's no exceptions.
So, Senator, just to be aware, though, that a number of those schemes had already been opened at the time that the Minister made his decision on the 31st of
Okay,
October.
so does it apply to those?
So it will go into the next round of documentation.
So it's not retrospective?
No, it's
No,
not.
it's
Senator.
not.
So it applies to the discovery projects, the Discovery Indigenous, the linkage infrastructure,
Right.
equipments and facilities, and linkage projects
Can
schemes
I,
at this time.
look, I'm just trying to work out how this is going to work, right? Because you know, if there's a change of government, this will change. I just make that clear to you. But so let's see how it's going to, you know, how you're interpreting it. Right? Now, you're saying the definition the Minister's issued is the extent to which research contributes to the national interest through its potential to have economic, commercial, environmental, social and cultural benefits for the Australian community. Is that right?
Yes, Senator.
Okay, so how does that differ than previously defined?
In our previous form, Senator, benefit appeared at two places on the form. The first section was a small text section only used internally by the ARC, which was about benefit and impact. And then there is another part of benefit which sits in the academic part of the form,
Right.
and that remains unchanged.
I see. So the word commercial is effectively the difference here. Is that right?
Senator, I'm not sure. I'm just trying to check that for you.
Sorry, Senator, we won't be a moment.
So, Senator, under benefit, under the discovery projects, the selection criterion says the significant new knowledge and/or innovative economic, commercial, environmental, social and/or cultural benefits.
Sure, but the significant change is the word commercial.
No, Senator, that appears in both forms of the words, I think.
In all respects. So the Fed Fellows in the past would have had the application of commercial to it, would it?
It's one of the ways in which benefits can be shown, yes.
Sorry, future fellows. Yeah, I see.
I think that's the case, Senator.
Yeah. And the laureates, they would have had a commercial application, would they?
I'm not sure, Senator, but I can check that.
Now, the current funding rules require these processes to be assessed by panels of experts, advisory committees and the like. That's correct, isn't it?
The criteria for the peer review part of grants assessment is unchanged, Senator.
I see. So these processes, the national interest test process, how has that affected that peer review process?
That sits separate to the peer review process. The Minister requested the ARC administer the test, and the ARC CEO recommend to the Minister those applications that had been highly ranked and which meet the national interest test.
I see. So there's a separate criteria, is there, for the national interest test?
There's a separate consideration, Senator.
Separate. And who makes that judgment?
the Minister remains the decision maker
Yes.
in the grant process.
Yes.
The ARC CEO has a role in putting recommendations to the
I
Minister.
see. So, Professor Thomas, you've got to determine whether or not there's a commercial element here, the national interest test.
The CEO will recommend projects to the Minister which are highly ranked and which meet the national interest test.
But the national interest test is not determined by peer review, it's determined by you.
It sits separately, as Ms Emery
I just want to
has
know
said.
who makes the call. And from what you've just said, it's you.
So the CEO sits in the process before it goes to the Minister for his decision.
Yes, we've got that. But it's surely not the peer review panels that make the determination.
No, Senator.
So who else is involved in the process apart from you?
So what we have said in our process, Senator, is that in taking highly ranked proposals, the ARC CEO will look at the national interest test text, and where there is any concern will contact the administering organisation, and from there seek any clarifications required.
Professor Thomas, that surely means you have to make the recommendation to the Minister.
So, as I've said to the sector in numerous discussions on this recently, Senator, I'm not a disciplinary expert across all of the areas
that's certainly
that the
true.
ARC
That's certainly true.
covers.
That's not the issue. That's not the issue. I mean, this is crap from beginning to end. The point is that the Minister has put you in a position where you have to make the recommendation to him as to whether or not a project meets the national interest test. Now, it's not the peer review group. It's you as the CEO. You are in a unique position here. That is surely the impact of this direction. Who else does it?
The CEO is the person named in the
That's
process,
right.
Senator.
That's right. And what qualifications do you have, Professor Thomas, or any CEO, I don't mean to personalise it, any CEO have to make such a judgment?
Senator, I have been clear with the sector that I'm not a disciplinary expert, that I will be looking at whether the text that is provided, firstly, there is text as a compulsory field, that it is in plain English as the Minister has requested, and that it seems to apply to the project.
So it's a matter of plain English now, is it?
The Minister has asked for it to be in plain English.
Do you determine that as well?
Senator, where I have concerns, I will contact an institution.
Senator, you asked some questions about whether the word commercial appears in the other selection criteria. So in in Discovery Early Career Researcher Award, it does refer to commercial in that selection in the benefit selection criterion. In relation to future fellows, it also is included in that selection criterion.
It's not at the core, as this test would put it, though, is it?
It is. It's one of the aspects that needs to be considered under benefit and
It's an
collaboration.
aspect. It's not at the core as this definition would have it.
Well, it's one of the considerations, Senator, that needs to be considered under that selection criteria.
Right.
And it does not, for the sake of completeness, does not appear in the selection criteria
Can I ask,
for laureates fellows.
Ms. Thomas, at what point do you have to act as a political censor on grant applications?
Senator, maybe I could assist.
That is a reasonable question.
It is a very
for the
reasonable question
official.
because it's got to meet the national interest test
Professor Thomas,
to determine whether or
I
not the
mean-
Minister should sign off on something. You're making a recommendation to the Minister essentially on political grounds, surely.
Senator, if I can put it differently, the ARC in this process is trying to ensure that highly ranked research is best represented to the Minister through this process.
But it's not the peer review committee that makes the recommendation on the national interest test, it's you. You determine what is in the national interest on the basis of your recommendation to the Minister. Now, ultimately, it's the Minister
Senator
that makes
Cameron,
the
can we
political
get
decision
to a
whether he'll
question?
fund it or not fund it. But,
Sorry, it's been too long a day.
But the recommendation comes from you.
As is
And it's an
required under the
inherent
Act.
political process that you've now become part of.
Senator
Is it not the
Cameron.
case?
Senator Cameron. Too long a day. Senator Carr.
What's the problem? What's the problem?
Can we ask a question of the
I have
witness
asked the
rather than
question.
making
Is it not the
statements?
case that it's an inherent political process that you are now at the centre of?
I think you're asking the officers to give an opinion, Senator Carr, on a process
I see.
of government.
Are you... see, there's no concern that you have, Professor Thomas, that you are a political censor.
Senator, my view is immaterial.
No, it will be. Your view will be central to the recommendation. We've just established that. So no good saying your view is immaterial here, because it's not. It's absolutely critical under this government's direction to you.
Senator Carr.
Well, I'm wondering if the national interest test will also encompass international questions around science and research. Will you be required to examine those issues of international dimensions of science and research?
Sorry, Senator, I'm
In
not
what
sure
sense?
sure
Well,
what you
the
mean.
sense of, given that science is inherently international, will you be required to make judgments about where we fit within a national interest test for international projects?
Senator, all of the applicants in previous iterations of the forms have addressed benefit and impact through the previous text box that was there.
So why change it?
It's the decision of government.
Exactly. A political decision of government which puts you at the centre. And I'm asking you what the criteria is, how it's going to work.
Well, Senator, we've already explained what is contained in the national interest test.
Okay, right. I think we look forward to this. Do you intend to be making any recommendations over the next 3 months?
In the sense of...
In what sort of
grants.
sense? Senator, I suspect that there will be one round of linkage projects which will need to go to the Minister.
Just
Yes.
the one?
I think so. I need to
That's
be...
before caretaker, is it?
If I could be corrected on
You don't make recommendations
Senator
after
Carr,
caretaker, do
if
you?
We
you know
want
such
during-
things, you certainly know more than the rest of us.
I know, I'm
don't
just
think
asking the
it's-
question.
it's
Is
not a
it
reasonable-
the
it's
case
not- it's
that
not
you
a
intend to make any
reasonable
grants
question.
during the caretaker period?
we would follow the caretaker convention,
Exactly.
Senator, and we can't come to a decision if we're
Yes,
in
that's right. So how many grant applications will you be processing between now and the caretaker period?
And the officials don't know when that is, so they cannot answer
They
that.
don't
Well,
know
we know
exactly
it's
when
got-
that is. Come on.
We know.
It's a question.
and
So
we also
when's the
know-
ARC
I think the
linkage
Chair
grant
makes a
period?
good point, Senator
When's the
Carr.
ARC linkage
You're
grant
asking the
period?
officials to comment on when
How
the
many
Prime
did you
Minister
do before
may
June 30 this
determine
year?
to call an
How many
election.
are on the books for before June 30 this year?
Well, they've already told us there's
A nice
one that's a
factual
linkage. I just
question.
want to be
Thank you,
clear
Senator.
about
So there are some schemes which are currently going through assessment at this time, Senator Carr,
what
but
are
I
they?
think there's only the linkage projects which will
what
be...
date are they due for process?
I don't have it on me, Senator, so I can take that on notice.
What month?
The officer's taken it on notice, Senator
She
Carr.
knows better than that, Minister.
Well, she
knows
may know
much
better,
than
but
that.
she's taken it on notice,
What
which is her
month?
right
What
to
are
do.
they
Senator
That
Carr,
is
it's
her right
been
to
taken
do,
on
Senator
notice.
Carr.
Let's move
What are the
on.
projects?
She's taken that on notice, Senator Pratt.
You don't have...
I don't have a date for when...
I don't know what the date of the month. Which month?
I could only hazard a guess that it might be March, but I could be also very wrong on that,
I
Senator.
really wouldn't be
So I have to
tonight.
take it on notice.
So how long have you been doing this now?
3.5 years.
Yes, that's right. 2.5 years.